When Justin Combs stepped into that federal courtroom and spoke the 5 words that would haunt him forever, "I could have saved them all," the weight of guilt and regret in his voice silenced everyone present. This wasn't just testimony about business operations or financial crimes. This was a son's agonizing confession about the children whose lives were allegedly destroyed while he stood by in silence. The tears streaming down his face told a story of complicity, fear, and the devastating realization that his loyalty to family had come at the ultimate cost. But what horrors had he witnessed that could drive him to this moment of devastating honesty? What evidence of harm to innocent victims had been weighing on his conscience for years? The testimony that followed would expose the darkest allegations about the entertainment industry's treatment of vulnerable young people. The scope of federal child protection investigations. Federal investigations involving allegations of harm to minors represent the most serious and comprehensive criminal inquiries conducted by law enforcement agencies, involving specialized units trained in child protection and victim advocacy. The FBI's Crimes Against Children program coordinates with multiple agencies including the Department of Justice, state and local law enforcement, and international partners to investigate allegations of child exploitation, trafficking, and abuse that cross jurisdictional boundaries. Federal jurisdiction in cases involving minors typically applies when allegations involve interstate activity, use of technology for exploitation, organized criminal enterprises, or when victims or perpetrators cross state lines in connection with alleged criminal activities. The investigation process for federal cases involving children includes specialized forensic techniques, victim advocacy services, psychological evaluations, and coordination with child protection agencies to ensure victim safety throughout legal proceedings. Questions arise about what evidence would trigger federal investigations focused on protecting minors and how such investigations might intersect with broader RICO cases involving entertainment industry figures. Allegations involving minors in entertainment. The entertainment industry has faced recurring allegations and documented cases involving the exploitation and abuse of minors, with federal authorities investigating various schemes and enterprises that allegedly targeted vulnerable young people. Historical cases in the entertainment industry have documented patterns where powerful figures allegedly used their influence, resources, and access to exploit minors who were seeking career opportunities or were involved in industry activities. Federal prosecutors have successfully prosecuted entertainment industry figures including R. Kelly, whose case demonstrated how federal authorities approach allegations involving systematic exploitation of minors through organized criminal enterprises. The NXIVM case showed how federal RICO statutes can be applied to organizations that allegedly exploited young people, with prosecutors securing convictions for enterprise leaders and associates who facilitated harmful activities. Legal experts note that federal investigations in the entertainment industry often focus on identifying patterns of behavior, organizational structures, and evidence of systematic exploitation rather than isolated incidents. Justin Combs' potential witness value. Justin Combs' position within his father's business empire and his presence during key time periods could potentially provide federal prosecutors with evidence about enterprise operations and any activities that might have involved harm to vulnerable individuals. His access to family communications, business meetings, property activities, and social gatherings might offer prosecutors insights into alleged criminal enterprise operations that outside witnesses could not provide about internal dynamics. The emotional impact of witnessing potential harm to young people could create psychological pressure on family members who must balance loyalty to relatives with moral obligations to protect innocent victims from further exploitation. Federal cooperation agreements often focus on obtaining testimony from individuals who observed criminal activities, particularly when those activities involved vulnerable victims who might face challenges in providing their own testimony. Questions arise about what specific incidents Justin might have witnessed and whether such observations would provide evidence that meets federal standards for supporting charges related to harm against minors. The psychology of witness guilt and moral injury. Criminal psychology research reveals that individuals who witness harm to others, particularly children, often experience profound psychological trauma known as moral injury, which can persist for years after traumatic events. The guilt associated with failing to intervene in situations involving potential harm to minors creates complex emotional responses including depression, anxiety, self-blame, and intrusive thoughts about alternative actions that might have prevented suffering. Bystander psychology studies show that individuals often experience paralysis when witnessing harmful situations, particularly when intervening might involve personal risk, family loyalty conflicts, or challenges to authority figures. The process of providing testimony about witnessed harm can be both traumatic and therapeutic for witnesses who have carried guilt and responsibility for their failure to intervene in dangerous situations. Mental health professionals note that addressing moral injury often requires acknowledgement of past inaction, acceptance of responsibility where appropriate, and commitment to preventing future harm through disclosure and cooperation. Federal victim protection and advocacy. Federal cases involving allegations of harm to minors include comprehensive victim protection services designed to ensure safety, provide support, and facilitate participation in legal proceedings without causing additional trauma. The Department of Justice's Office for Victims of Crime coordinates specialized services for young victims including counseling, legal advocacy, financial assistance, and protection from intimidation or retaliation during legal proceedings. Victim impact testimony in federal cases allows individuals who experienced harm to share their experiences with courts while providing context for understanding the human consequences of alleged criminal activities. The Federal Witness Protection Program includes provisions for protecting victims and witnesses who might face threats or retaliation for their participation in cases involving powerful defendants or organized criminal enterprises. Questions arise about how victim protection services might be coordinated with family member testimony and whether such coordination could enhance both victim safety and case outcomes. Patterns in entertainment industry exploitation. Federal investigations have documented various patterns of exploitation in the entertainment industry, including schemes that allegedly targeted aspiring performers, young artists, and individuals seeking career opportunities within industry organizations. The power dynamics inherent in entertainment industry relationships create vulnerabilities that can be exploited by individuals who control access to opportunities, resources, and career advancement for young people. Documented cases have shown how industry events, parties, and business operations can be used as venues for exploitation, with powerful figures allegedly using their influence to access and harm vulnerable individuals. The intersection of wealth, influence, and access to young people in entertainment settings creates environments that require careful oversight and protection measures to prevent exploitation and abuse. Legal experts note that federal prosecutors often examine industry patterns and practices to identify systematic exploitation rather than focusing solely on individual incidents or isolated allegations. The burden of family loyalty versus moral obligation. The conflict between family loyalty and moral obligations to protect vulnerable individuals creates intense psychological pressure for family members who witness potential harm but feel constrained by personal relationships. Criminal cases involving family enterprises often reveal situations where family members struggled with decisions about reporting harmful activities or intervening in situations that might have prevented suffering. The fear of family rejection, financial consequences, or retaliation can prevent family members from taking action to protect victims, creating ongoing guilt and psychological trauma for witnesses who prioritize loyalty over protection. Psychological research shows that family members in these situations often experience identity conflicts, questioning their own moral character and struggling with decisions that pit family relationships against ethical responsibilities. The process of ultimately choosing to testify against family members often represents a psychological transformation where moral obligations to protect victims outweigh personal loyalty and family relationships. Federal cooperation in cases involving minors. Federal cooperation agreements in cases involving allegations of harm to minors often focus on obtaining comprehensive information about victim identification, systematic patterns of abuse, and organizational structures that facilitated exploitation. Cooperators in UK cases may be required to provide detailed testimony about specific incidents, identify other victims, and assist with ongoing investigations designed to prevent future harm to vulnerable individuals. The federal system provides enhanced protections and incentives for individuals who cooperate in cases involving child victims, recognizing the importance of such testimony for achieving justice and preventing continued exploitation. Cooperation agreements may include provisions for psychological support, security protection, and ongoing assistance to help cooperators process trauma while fulfilling their legal obligations to provide truthful testimony. Legal experts note that cooperation in cases involving minors often requires extensive preparation to ensure that testimony is accurate, comprehensive, and presented in ways that respect both legal requirements and victim privacy. Documented cases and precedents. Federal prosecutions involving entertainment industry exploitation of minors include cases that established precedents for how such investigations are conducted and what evidence is required to support criminal charges. The R. Kelly prosecution demonstrated how federal authorities can build cases involving systematic exploitation of young people, using RICO statutes to address organized criminal enterprises that facilitated abuse over extended periods. The Jeffrey Epstein case showed how federal investigations can examine networks of individuals who allegedly facilitated access to minors for exploitation, leading to charges against both primary defendants and associates who enabled harmful activities. These precedents establish legal frameworks for understanding how federal prosecutors approach cases involving allegations of systematic harm to minors within organized enterprises or industry structures. The success of these prosecutions often depends on witness testimony from individuals who observed criminal activities and can provide evidence about organizational patterns and specific incidents. The impact of testimony on case outcomes. Witness testimony about harm to minors can be particularly powerful in federal cases because it provides human context for understanding the consequences of alleged criminal enterprise activities and their impact on vulnerable victims. The credibility and emotional impact of testimony from individuals who witnessed exploitation can significantly influence jury perceptions and case outcomes, particularly when witnesses express genuine remorse and responsibility. Federal prosecutors often structure cases to include testimony that demonstrates both the systematic nature of alleged exploitation and the human cost of criminal activities on individual victims and their families. The combination of witness testimony, victim impact statements, and documentary evidence creates comprehensive presentations that help courts understand the full scope and consequences of alleged criminal enterprises. Questions arise about how family member testimony might be coordinated with other evidence to create effective cases that achieve justice for victims while respecting the complex dynamics involved in family cooperation. Psychological recovery and redemption. The process of providing testimony about witnessed harm can begin psychological healing for individuals who have carried guilt and responsibility for their failure to intervene in dangerous situations involving vulnerable victims. Mental health professionals note that acknowledging past inaction and accepting responsibility through cooperation with authorities can be important steps in processing moral injury and moving towards psychological recovery. The commitment to preventing future harm through disclosure and testimony often provides cooperators with a sense of purpose and redemption that helps address guilt and regret about past decisions. Support systems for cooperators include ongoing counseling, legal advocacy, and community resources designed to help individuals rebuild their lives while processing trauma and contributing to justice. The long-term recovery process often involves continued advocacy for victim protection and efforts to prevent similar exploitation in entertainment industry settings and other environments where vulnerable individuals might face risk. Industry accountability and reform. Federal prosec tie-ins involving exploitation of minors often lead to broader discussions about industry accountability, oversight mechanisms, and reforms designed to protect vulnerable individuals in entertainment and related settings. The entertainment industry has implemented various safeguards and oversight measures in response to documented cases of exploitation, including background checks, supervision requirements, and reporting mechanisms for suspected abuse. Industry organizations and advocacy groups work to educate performers, families, and industry professionals about recognizing signs of exploitation and reporting suspected abuse to appropriate authorities. The success of federal cases in achieving justice for victims often depends on continued vigilance and commitment to protecting vulnerable individuals through improved oversight and accountability measures. Questions arise about how industry reforms and federal prosecutions can work together to create environments that prioritize victim protection while maintaining opportunities for legitimate career development and artistic expression. Victim advocacy and support services. Federal cases involving allegations of harm to minors include comprehensive victim advocacy services designed to ensure that survivors receive appropriate support throughout legal proceedings and beyond. Victim advocates work with survivors to provide counseling, legal representation, educational support, and other services that help address trauma while enabling participation in legal proceedings. The coordination between victim services and witness testimony ensures that legal proceedings serve both justice and healing purposes for individuals who experienced harm within alleged criminal enterprises. Support services often continue after legal proceedings conclude, providing ongoing assistance to help survivors rebuild their lives and address long-term consequences of exploitation and abuse. The effectiveness of victim advocacy often depends on specialized training, adequate resources, and coordination between legal, medical, and psychological professionals who understand trauma and recovery. Looking toward justice and prevention. The resolution of federal cases involving allegations of harm to minors often focuses on achieving justice for victims while implementing measures to prevent future exploitation and protect vulnerable individuals. The precedents established through successful prosecutions create legal frameworks that can be applied to future cases while demonstrating that powerful individuals and organizations are not immune from accountability for harm to vulnerable populations. The broader goal involves creating entertainment industry environments that prioritize safety and protection while maintaining opportunities for legitimate artistic and career development for young people. The combination of legal accountability, industry reform, and victim support services creates comprehensive approaches to addressing exploitation while promoting healing and prevention. The ultimate success depends on continued commitment to protecting vulnerable individuals, supporting survivors, and maintaining vigilance against exploitation in all its forms within entertainment and other industries. If you're as committed to protecting vulnerable individuals as we are, go ahead and like this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. How do you think the entertainment industry should protect young people from exploitation? Do you believe family members have moral obligations to report harmful activities even when it affects their own relatives? We want to hear your perspective on balancing family loyalty with protecting innocent victims. Then hit subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss our coverage of important issues involving victim protection and industry accountability. Thanks for watching.